Hey guys, I had so much fun with yesterday's video. I kind of threw all of my rubric and structure out the window and just sat down and talked. And I had a lot of fun doing it, and it got a much better response than a lot of my other videos where I've just been sitting in the same place talking about my daily cycle updates, which I had a lot of fun doing. And when I look up on YouTube menstrual cycles, I hadn't seen anybody doing anything like that. I feel like predominantly I see doctors in coats, talking about menstrual cycles, which is extremely important. And I'm so glad that that content is there. But I'm just baffled that there's not more women talking about what it's like to have a menstrual cycle just in general. And so anyway, I'm looking for fun ways to do that, ways that are educational and informative and entertaining. And so I think just sitting down and just getting straight to the point is the way to do it. So with that in mind, today I want to talk about birth control. There's been a lot of talk lately about it, especially with the recent lawsuit against Depo Provera. And I'm so glad that this lawsuit is sparking conversation and communication, because I feel like in my own social circles, it's become more popular to talk about the harms of birth control. And I don't think it's always been that way. In fact, I think in the past it's been the option for, if you're getting married and you've been practicing, abstinence your whole life, then the next logical step is, when you get married, birth control if you aren't ready to start your family. And I think that that is changing, but it's interesting because I've recently had a friend get married and I noticed that kind of framework happening in her mind, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is still happening. We're learning more and more about the harms of birth control, and yet it's the number one thing that people are jumping to. And not just, that's one really specific scenario. um Women who are preparing for marriage, but I also see this with young women who are using birth control to relieve symptoms like acne or extreme menstrual pain. I've had friends who birth control has been the only thing that felt like it really was able to relieve symptoms that are excruciating and not fun. And so I don't want to like diminish or downplay um, those struggles at all. And I'm also not here to say that birth control doesn't take away those symptoms, but I am here to say that it takes care of the symptoms. It doesn't take care of the root problem. And I think on top of that, with this lawsuit, it's also presenting the idea that not only is it taking care of symptoms or, you know, potential pregnancy, it's causing harm to your body. It could cause a brain tumor down the road. And as I've been thinking about this issue more, I've been thinking about how much as a society we just take in, whether it's physically or online or, um, externally or internally, we just like take it in. And we're in a constant consumerism society. And so I think that, I don't want to get too broad here, but I've been thinking about it on the broader spectrum of what we use to get temporary, immediate results that could contribute to long-term dissatisfaction, physically or even mentally. I recently was offered a gig working with a company um, that I was really excited about. They actually were the ones who did my blood labs, and I posted about that several videos ago. I was really excited, and I had a great experience with the techs that were there, and they introduced me to the owner of the company. And as we were in discussions. We actually had a contract drawn up. I had sent my rates. We were all a go. And then I found out that the company had a sister company. I thought it was a separate entity, but it was actually part of the same company that they wanted me to do work for as well. It would be kind of combined. And this additional company, I kid you not, the more I looked into it, is just feeding off the immediate insecurity of men and women, and genuinely both. And anyway, it made me sick. Like, the whole experience made me sick. There's so much more to that. I kind of posted a little bit on my Instagram about what happened there, and I ended up walking away from that contract because I think that it's important to be careful about what you're putting in your body, what you're consuming, and looking at the root causes of the things that are causing pain, whether it is physically or mentally. We are the creators of our reality in so many ways, and because we're so creative, there are an immense and innumerable number of ways that we can find solutions. And these, injectables or things that we take or absorb are one option, but they're not the only option. And if they're ever being presented as such, which I think in the case of birth control, frequently it is proposed as the only option, that's a lie. It's just like completely a bold-faced lie. So anyway, that was fun. That was a lot more words than I was even planning to say, and I hope that it was somewhat linear and made sense. And I'd really love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of it, on the lawsuit, on birth control in general, on our society as well, and the way that we consume things. I'm just really curious what you guys are thinking, how you're digesting the new information about Depo Provera, and I think it'd be fun to do some additional videos looking into the lawsuit specifically, and just diving a little deeper. But those are just kind of my off-the-cuff thoughts today, and I'm thankful that you were here to listen, and I, again, want to know what you think as well. So comment below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.